She told him, "I'm not like your women," but he couldn't stop gazing. Here's what happened. He stood near the wide crystal window of the orbital hall, hands relaxed at his sides, watching stars slide slowly across the dark. The station was not human-made. Everything here was smooth, curved, and silent, designed to calm the minds of the many alien species that used it. For the human envoy, the quiet felt heavy, like the air before a storm. His name was Evan. He was not a soldier, not a hero, not even a senior diplomat. He was chosen because he listened well, because he stayed calm when others raised their voices, and because he noticed small things most people missed. Humanity had learned long ago that survival among the stars did not always depend on strength. Sometimes it depended on understanding. Around him, the reception continued. Tall beings with silver skin spoke in measured tones. Insect-like delegates clicked softly as they exchanged data. Floating shapes pulsed with light as they communicated through color. No one touched. No one laughed. Emotion was kept tightly controlled here. That was the rule of the Alliance. Evan felt out of place, but he did not show it. That was when she approached him. She was taller than him, her posture straight and confident. Her skin carried a faint blue tone, smooth like polished stone. Her eyes were sharp and bright, reflecting the lights of the hall. She wore no decoration, no symbol of rank, yet others subtly moved aside when she passed. She was important. She stopped directly in front of him. "You have been observing me," she said. Her voice was calm but not soft. It carried authority shaped by years of command. Evan met her eyes without surprise. "Yes." Around them, nearby conversations quieted slightly. Direct statements like that were uncommon here. Her eyes narrowed. "Why?" He considered the question for a moment. "Because you are interesting." A flicker of irritation crossed her face. "Careful, human customs do not apply to me." "I know," Evan said. She folded her arms. "Then understand this clearly. I am not like your women." The words were sharp, deliberate, not angry but defensive, as if she had said them before, as if she expected misunderstanding. Evan did not look away. He did not smile. He did not apologize. "I never thought you were," he replied. That answer caught her off guard. She studied him more closely now, scanning his expression, his posture, his breathing. Humans were known for their emotional reactions: fear, desire, aggression. He showed none of them. "Then why the gaze?" she asked. "Because where I come from," Evan said, "looking is how we learn, not how we claim." Silence settled between them. She had dealt with many species. Most avoided eye contact with her. Others stared with open calculation. Some looked with fear. The human's gaze felt different. It did not weigh her, it did not judge her, it simply acknowledged her presence. "You are unusual," she said. "So are you," Evan replied. A faint movement rippled through the air near them. Other delegates were watching now, pretending not to. Humans rarely spoke this directly to high-ranking members of the Alliance. "You do not fear consequences," she said. "I respect them," Evan answered. "That's different." For the first time, she looked uncertain. "My designation is Lyran," she said after a moment. "I oversee cultural compliance within the Alliance." That explained the subtle fear in others. "I'm Evan," he said, "human observer." "Observer," she repeated, "not negotiator, not commander." "No," Evan said, "just someone who watches and reports what others miss." Her gaze sharpened. "Then tell me, observer, what have you missed?" He glanced around the hall, then back to her. "This place is built to hide tension. Everyone here claims stability, but the silence feels strained, like something is being avoided." Lyran's expression hardened. "Speculation? Maybe," Evan said, "but humans are good at noticing patterns before they become data." She stepped closer. Evan did not move. "You assume emotional insight gives you advantage," she said. "No," Evan replied. "It gives us responsibility." That answer unsettled her more than anger would have. "You believe emotion is strength," she said slowly. "We believe ignoring it is dangerous," Evan said. For a moment, Lyran said nothing. Then she turned away. "This conversation is over," she said. Evan inclined his head slightly. "Of course." She walked back into the crowd. The tension eased. Conversations resumed, but something had shifted. From across the hall, Lyran glanced back once. Evan was no longer looking at her. He was watching the others. She did not like that. Later, during the formal exchange session, Evan sat quietly behind the human delegation. He took notes by hand, a habit that amused some species and confused others. Lyran stood at the center platform, addressing concerns about border security and trade balance. Her voice was steady, her logic was flawless, yet Evan noticed small delays in responses. Glances exchanged between leaders, a pattern of deflection. When the session ended, Lyran approached him again, this time away from the crowd. "You were not watching me earlier," she said. "No," Evan replied. "I was watching reactions." "And," she asked. "You are all preparing for something," he said, "but no one wants to say it out loud." Her jaw tightened. "You see danger where none has been confirmed." "We see danger where others wait for permission," Evan said. "That impatience has destroyed civilizations," Lyran replied. "So has hesitation," Evan said quietly. She studied him for a long time. "You humans are difficult," she said. "We've had practice," Evan replied. Against her better judgment, she found herself asking, "Why are you here truly?" "Because humanity learned that survival in the stars doesn't come from pretending everything is fine," Evan said. "It comes from asking uncomfortable questions." "And if those questions destabilize the Alliance?" she asked. "Then maybe the Alliance needs to change," Evan answered. The words were dangerous, treasonous, some would say. Lyran should have ended the conversation. Instead, she said, "Walk with me." They moved through a quieter corridor, walls glowing softly. No guards followed, no translators hovered, just them. "You told me earlier that you are not like our women," Evan said carefully. "I believed you." She stopped. "Explain." "You are not defined by how others see you," he said. "Not by gender, not by species. Humans don't look to fit others into familiar shapes. We look to understand what stands in front of us." "That is not how the galaxy sees you," she said. "We know," Evan replied. "That's why we keep trying." Lyran looked ahead, thoughtful. "You looked at me," she said, "and I expected judgment, desire, comparison." "And instead?" Evan asked. "Instead," she said slowly, "it felt like being seen without being measured." That disturbed her more than hostility ever could. "You told me you are not like human women," Evan said. "I never needed you to be." She turned to him sharply. "Then why does it matter?" "Because it mattered to you," Evan said gently. Silence filled the corridor. Lyran had spent her life mastering control, over others, over herself, over entire systems. Yet one human observer with no rank and no threat had unsettled her certainty. "You are dangerous," she said. The station did not sleep, but it changed. Lights dimmed slightly. Corridors grew quieter. Delegates returned to private chambers or sealed meeting rooms. Data streams slowed, then shifted to secure channels. To most beings aboard the Alliance station, this was routine. To Evan, it felt wrong. He sat alone in the small human quarters, reviewing his handwritten notes. Patterns repeated. Delays, careful language, topics redirected just before becoming uncomfortable. The Alliance was afraid, but fear here did not look like panic. It looked like silence. A soft chime sounded at the door. Evan looked up, surprised. Visitors were rare at this hour. "Enter," he said. The door slid open. Lyran stepped inside. She did not ask permission. Her presence filled the room, not physically, but mentally. Evan noticed the tension in her shoulders, carefully controlled but real. "You were correct," she said. Evan set his notes aside. "About what?" "Something is being hidden," Lyran replied. "Not from you, from everyone." He waited. Humans had learned that silence often invited truth. "There are restricted reports," she continued. "Border failures, communication gaps, entire outposts going dark for short periods, then returning as if nothing happened." "That's not normal," Evan said. "No," Lyran agreed. "But the High Council insists the data is incomplete. They say action would cause panic." "And you disagree," Evan said. "I am tasked with cultural stability," Lyran replied. "Panic is my responsibility to prevent. Yet," she paused, "ignoring reality may cause greater collapse." Evan nodded slowly. "Humans call that borrowed time. It always runs out." She studied him. "You speak as if your species has faced this before." "We have," Evan said. "More than once. We survived by admitting fear instead of hiding it." Lyran walked toward the window, staring at the distant stars. "In this alliance, emotion is seen as failure, logic is safety." "And when logic lacks information?" Evan asked. "Then we wait," she said. "And people die while waiting," Evan replied quietly. Lyran did not respond immediately. "You are not authorized to see these reports," she said finally. "I don't need to see them," Evan replied. "I believe you." That made her turn. "You trust me without verification?" "I trust patterns," Evan said. "And I trust the fact that you came here instead of reporting me." For the first time, Lyran looked unsettled. "You are forcing me into risk," she said. "No," Evan replied. I'm giving you a choice, she exhaled slowly. Humans and their choices. Over the next few cycles, Lyran began requesting Evan's presence during minor negotiations. Officially, it was to observe human reactions. Unofficially, she wanted his perspective. Other delegates noticed. Whispers spread. A human observer was influencing discussions. Outcomes shifted slightly. Compromises appeared where stalemates once stood, not because Evan argued, but because he asked simple questions others avoided. What happens if this fails? Who pays the cost of delay? Why does no one talk about the missing outposts? These questions made many uncomfortable. Some species disliked him openly, others studied him cautiously, a few began to listen. Lyran watched it all with growing unease. You manipulate through simplicity, she told him during a break. We communicate, Evan replied. There's a difference. You bypass authority, she said. We respect reality, Evan answered. Late one cycle, Lyran accessed human cultural archives. She did not tell anyone. She read about human history, wars, plagues, near extinctions, repeated failures followed by adaptation. Again and again, humans survived not because they were strongest, but because they changed when old systems broke. She found this disturbing. Her species valued consistency, tradition, stability. Humans seemed to value honesty even when it hurt. She closed the archive with a sense of unease. The next day, an emergency session was called. A border system had gone silent. This time, it did not come back. The council chamber filled quickly. Voices rose, then fell as Lyran took the center platform. Her expression was controlled, but her eyes were sharp. We are facing an anomaly, she announced. Details are limited. Evan watched the room. Limited details, again. Recommend observation, one delegate said. Further data required, said another. Premature action could destabilize trade routes. Evan's hands tightened slightly on his notes. Lyran felt it. She met his eyes across the chamber. For a brief moment she hesitated. Then she said, I request human input. The room went silent. This was unprecedented. Evan stood slowly. I am not a commander, he said, but where I come from, when systems fail without explanation, we assume intent until proven otherwise. Murmurs spread. You accuse without evidence, a delegate snapped. No, Evan replied calmly. I acknowledge uncertainty and act anyway. That is reckless, another said. That is survival, Evan replied. Lyran watched reactions ripple across the chamber, fear, resistance, doubt. And if we are wrong, someone asked. Then we adjust, Evan said. Humans are good at that. The council adjourned without resolution. That night, Lyran confronted Evan privately. You pushed them, she said. They needed it, Evan replied. You are accelerating instability, she said. Instability already exists, Evan replied. You're just feeling it now, she paced the room. You told me humans do not change others, she said. Yet I feel changed. Evan considered his response carefully. Humans don't force change, he said. We reveal consequences. She stopped pacing. I said I am not like your women, she said suddenly. I remember, Evan replied. And yet, she continued, you speak to me as if I am vulnerable. I speak to you as if you are real, Evan said. That answer hit harder than she expected. You do not see me as symbol, she said. No, Evan replied. I see you as someone carrying too much alone. Silence filled the room. Lyran had faced enemies without fear. She had judged entire civilizations without doubt. Yet this human saw something she had hidden even from herself. The next cycle, a classified alert leaked. Not through official channels, through civilian networks. Multiple systems reported simultaneous disruptions, ships missing, signals distorted, patterns emerging too fast to ignore. Panic spread. The council accused one another. Emergency powers were invoked, borders closed. Lyran stood at the center of it all, heart racing. She found Evan in the observation deck. You were right, she said, and now it may be too late. Evan looked at the spreading alerts. It's not too late, he said. But waiting longer will make it worse. She turned to him. If I act now, I betray everything I was trained to protect. If you don't, Evan said softly, you lose it anyway. She stared at the stars, remembering his gaze from their first meeting. Not desire, not judgment. Recognition, the first confirmed attack, did not look like an attack. That was the problem. A mining world at the edge of Alliance space went silent for 7 minutes. No explosion, no distress signal, no visible damage. Then communication returned, calm and orderly. Reports stated that operations had resumed normally. The council accepted it. Evan did not. He stood in the monitoring chamber with Lyran beside him, watching delayed sensor feeds. Something about the footage felt wrong. Workers moved too smoothly. Machines operated with perfect timing. Even background noise seemed filtered. "This is not recovery," Evan said quietly. "This is imitation." Lyran's hands clenched behind her back. "The data confirms full function." "The data confirms behavior," Evan replied, "not intent." She looked at him sharply. "Explain." "When humans copy something without understanding it, we exaggerate patterns," Evan said. "This looks like that. Everything is too correct." Lyran's breath slowed. "You believe something replaced them." "I believe something is watching how they behave," Evan said. Before she could respond, alarms sounded. This time the silence spread. 3 systems, then 5, then 12, not border worlds, core roots. The council chamber erupted into noise. Delegates spoke over one another. Demands for certainty clashed with warnings of collapse. Data flooded in faster than it could be processed. Lyran took the central platform, her voice steady but louder than before. "Maintain order. We will proceed by protocol." Protocol demanded confirmation. Confirmation demanded time. Time was something they no longer had. Evan stood, breaking etiquette again. "They're not attacking territory," he said clearly. "They're studying reactions." "Unfounded speculation," someone snapped. "They strike briefly, withdraw, and watch how we respond," Evan continued. "Every delay teaches them more about us." Lyran felt the truth of it settle heavily in her chest. "What do you propose?" she asked. Evan hesitated. What he was about to suggest went against everything the Alliance believed in. "We respond imperfectly," he said. "Unpredictably." The chamber fell silent. "You would introduce chaos," a delegate said. "Yes," Evan replied, "before they do it better than we can." Lyran turned toward him. "That violates every stability mandate." "So did survival," Evan replied. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. Then she gave the order: selective evacuations. Civilian warnings released early. Military units deployed without full models. Human advisors embedded across response teams. The Alliance moved without full certainty for the first time in centuries. The enemy responded immediately. The next strike came harder. A populated world. This time there was damage. Cities lost power. Transport failed. Atmospheric systems flickered. Still no clear attacker. No ships. No weapons signatures. Panic spread. Evan was already on a shuttle, heading toward the affected world with a mixed species response team. Lyran watched the departure feed, heart pounding. She was violating protocol. She was trusting a human. On the ground, chaos reigned. Evacuation corridors clogged. Local leadership froze, waiting for council direction that never came. Evan took command without authority. "Move people first," he ordered. "We fix systems later." Alien officers hesitated. "This is not our procedure," one said. "It is now," Evan replied. Humans moved quickly. They rerouted power manually. They used visual signals when networks failed. They guided civilians by voice and touch, ignoring rank and species. The enemy watched. Sensors finally caught something. Not ships, fields, invisible pressure zones that disrupted thought patterns, slowed decision-making, and amplified hesitation. The Alliance had never faced a weapon that attacked confidence itself. Humans adapted. They ignored predictive models. They acted on instinct. When one plan failed, they abandoned it without shame and tried another. Evan noticed something critical. The pressure weakened when humans acted together emotionally, when they shouted warnings, when they reassured strangers. When they showed urgency instead of calm. They're feeding on hesitation, Evan realized. They weaken when we stop trying to be perfect. The realization spread through human channels. Be loud, be fast, be messy. It worked. The fields destabilized. The enemy withdrew sooner than expected, but the cost was high. Lyran arrived hours later, standing amid damaged structures and exhausted survivors. She watched a human medic comfort a child from a different species without shared language, using only tone and presence. Something inside her broke. "You disobeyed orders," she said to Evan later. "Yes," he replied. "You endangered the Alliance," she said. "Yes," he replied again. "And you saved this world," she said quietly. Evan met her gaze. "We did." She turned away, struggling to regain control. "You said humans do not change others," she said. "Yet everything I believed has failed." "Beliefs are tools," Evan said gently, "not truths." The Council's response was swift. They blamed the chaos on human recklessness. They demanded a return to protocol. They accused Lyran of allowing emotional contamination. She stood before them alone. "I witnessed the attack firsthand," she said. "Logic failed us, humanity did not." "You risk alliance unity," a counselor warned. "Unity without survival is meaningless," Lyran replied. They stripped her of authority, removed her from command, declared her compromised. As guards moved to escort her away, Evan stepped forward. "If you silence her," he said calmly, "you silence the only leader willing to adapt." The council ignored him. Lyran was escorted out, exiled within her own station. That night the enemy struck again, harder. This time the alliance froze completely. Evacuation orders stalled. Military units waited for approval. Systems failed faster than responses could form. Evan did not wait. He gathered humans and willing allies. They broadcast unfiltered messages across open channels. Warnings, instructions, encouragement. "Move now. Trust yourselves." "Don't wait," the enemy recoiled. They had learned too much about hesitation, but not enough about humanity. Lyran watched from confinement as the feeds changed, as people acted without permission, as imperfect choices saved lives. She understood then. Logic had not failed. It had been incomplete. The enemy was not defeated, but they had been understood. And for the first time, the Alliance realized something terrifying and undeniable. When logic failed, humanity did not. The Alliance station felt smaller after Lyran was removed from command. Not physically, but emotionally. Corridors once calm now carried tension that no lighting adjustment could hide. Delegates spoke in low voices. Security patrols doubled, then tripled. Data flowed non-stop, yet decisions stalled. Everyone waited for certainty that never arrived. Evan felt it everywhere. He was no longer just an observer, not after the last attacks. Not after worlds survived because humans refused to wait. Some avoided him now, others watched him closely. A few followed him without asking why. Lyran remained confined to a restricted sector, not a prison officially, a protective isolation. She was allowed access to information feeds, but no authority, no command channels, no influence. They thought removing her would restore stability. It did the opposite. The enemy adapted again. This time the attacks came in waves, not strong enough to destroy, not weak enough to ignore. They targeted logistics, communication relays, decision hubs, every place where approval was required. The Alliance slowed to a crawl. Humans did not. Evan stood in a crowded operations room filled with mixed species volunteers. None of them were supposed to be there. None had official orders, but they were tired of waiting. "They're pushing us into paralysis," one officer said. "Every response requires council confirmation." "Then stop asking," Evan replied. "That would be treason," another said. "Then survival is treason," Evan answered calmly. Silence followed, then movement. A ship captain nodded once. A logistics coordinator rerouted supplies without clearance. A civilian network opened emergency channels across 3 systems. The response began to form, messy and uneven, but alive. Lyran watched it all from confinement. She saw the patterns clearly now. The enemy was not just attacking systems. It was exploiting the Alliance's fear of making the wrong choice. Every delay strengthened it. Every hesitation fed it, and every human action weakened it. She requested a private channel to Evan. The request was denied. She requested again, denied. On the 3rd attempt, she used an old override code, one she had never used before, one meant only for extreme cultural emergencies. The channel opened. "You should not have done that," Evan said quietly when her image appeared. "I know," Lyran replied. "But you need to hear this. I'm listening." "They adapt to structure," she said. "They predict logic, they anticipate caution, but they fail to model conviction." Evan's eyes sharpened. "Go on." "They rely on our need for approval," Lyran continued. "Take that away and they lose leverage." "That's what humans are already doing," Evan said. "Yes," Lyran replied, "but without coordination they will burn out." She paused. "You need someone to unify this chaos," she said. "Someone the Alliance will listen to." "They won't listen to me," Evan said. "They will listen to me," Lyran replied. Even stripped of rank, Evan hesitated. "They exiled you?" "They fear me," she said. "Fear is still influence." He considered the risk. Helping her escape confinement would end any remaining trust the Council had in him, but waiting would end lives. "I'll help," he said. They moved quietly, not with force but with misdirection. Humans rerouted surveillance feeds for seconds at a time. Friendly delegates asked questions in the wrong places at the right moments. Doors opened. Lights flickered. Lyran walked out of confinement without resistance. No alarm sounded. The council was in emergency session when she entered the chamber. Gasps rippled across the room. "You defy this body," a counselor shouted. "I defy extinction," Lyran replied. She stepped to the center platform, standing where she once commanded. "You removed me because I questioned stability," she said. "Now look around you. Is this stable?" Silence. Worlds burned on the displays behind her. "You believe control creates safety," she continued, "but control has made us predictable." "You risk chaos," a delegate said. "Chaos is already here," Lyran replied. "The question is whether we shape it or let the enemy do so." Evan stood at the edge of the chamber, silent. Lyran raised a hand. "I propose immediate decentralization of response authority," she said. "Local leaders act without approval, emotional communication permitted, human advisors embedded everywhere." Outrage erupted. "This is madness. This violates Alliance law. This will fracture us." Lyran did not raise her voice. "You are already fractured," she said. "You just refuse to see it." She turned to Evan. "Tell them," she said. All eyes shifted to him. Evan stepped forward. "We don't win by being perfect," he said simply. "We win by being human." The chamber froze. Humans were a minority, but their record now spoke louder than tradition. Reluctantly, painfully, the council agreed to a trial, limited authority, limited time. If it failed, Lyran would be permanently removed. Humanity would be blamed. The enemy struck again before the decision was even complete. This time they attacked a core world. The response began instantly. Local leaders acted without waiting. Civilians were warned early. Ships launched before full scans. Humans spread through every level of response, not commanding but supporting. They spoke openly, shared fear, shared hope. The pressure fields weakened faster than before. The enemy reacted aggressively, trying to overwhelm instead of observe. It was a mistake. Humans noticed the shift. "They're angry," one said. "They didn't expect resistance this fast," another replied. "They don't understand why we're not freezing," Evan said. "Because we chose to act," Lyran replied. "The alliance held, not cleanly, not perfectly." But together, when the attack ended, the enemy withdrew farther than ever before. For the first time, they had lost ground. The council reconvened in stunned silence. "You broke every rule," a counselor said to Lyran. "Yes," she replied, "and saved millions." They could not argue, they could not deny it. They could only adapt or become irrelevant. Lyran was not restored to her old position. She was given something else. A new role, liaison to humanity, a bridge. Later, standing with Evan by the station window, Lyran spoke quietly. "I told you I am not like your women," she said. "You are not," Evan replied. "And yet," she continued, "it was humanity that taught me to choose." Evan smiled faintly. "We don't teach," he said. "We remind." She watched the stars. For the first time, she was not afraid of what waited in the dark. Because she was no longer waiting alone. The enemy did not return right away. That, more than anything, made everyone uneasy. Alliance space slowly stabilized. Emergency routes became permanent ones. Local leaders kept the authority they had been forced to take. The council still existed, but it no longer pretended to control everything. For the first time in generations, the alliance functioned without waiting for perfection. Humanity was everywhere now, not as rulers. Not as conquerors, as partners. Evan spent most of his time moving between systems, speaking to crews, civilians, and leaders who had never imagined trusting a human voice. He never gave speeches. He asked questions. He listened. He reminded people of what they had already done to survive. Lyran watched the changes closely. Her new role was undefined by old standards. She was not a commander, not a counselor. She was something unfamiliar to the Alliance. A bridge. Some respected her, some feared her. Some blamed her for everything that had gone wrong. She accepted all of it, because worlds were still standing. One cycle later, the enemy finally showed itself, not through attack, through contact. A signal appeared at the edge of Alliance space, not hidden, not aggressive. It repeated the same pattern over and over, simple and unmistakable. A request. The council panicked. "This is a trap. They are gathering data. They want us to reveal weaknesses." Voices rose, old habits returned. Lyran stood calmly, hands folded. "They are curious," she said, "not afraid." "That makes them more dangerous," a delegate snapped. "Or more honest," Evan said from beside her. The council turned to him reluctantly. "You believe this is safe?" someone asked. "No," Evan replied. "I believe it's necessary." Silence followed. They authorized a single response vessel, human-led, alliance-observed. The meeting would take place in open space far from populated worlds. Lyran insisted on attending. "If they are learning us," she said, "they must see what we have become." The vessel arrived at the coordinates first. The enemy appeared moments later, no ships in the traditional sense, no weapons visible. The space around them bent slightly as if reality itself hesitated near their presence. Evan felt it immediately, pressure, not physical, mental. The same force that had slowed decisions, encouraged doubt, fed on hesitation, but this time it weakened faster than expected. "Why?" Lyran asked quietly. "Because we're not waiting," Evan replied. "We came ready to speak." The connection opened. The enemy did not use images. It used patterns, concepts, feelings, not words, but impressions pressed gently into the mind. Observation, adaptation, curiosity. They had watched the Alliance for a long time, studied systems, learned behavior, predicted outcomes, and then humanity arrived, unpredictable. Emotionally noisy, acting without permission, breaking patterns, the enemy could not model it. "You disrupted equilibrium," the presence conveyed. Evan focused, allowing his thoughts to settle. "We survived," he responded. "You accept inefficiency," the presence pressed. "We accept reality," Evan answered. "You act without certainty," it said. "Yes," Evan replied, "because waiting kills." There was a pause. Lyran felt it too. The enemy was thinking. "You changed others," the presence conveyed, turning attention toward her. Lyran stepped forward. "No," she said firmly, "they reminded us." Another pause. "You are unstable," the presence concluded. Evan smiled slightly. "That's why we're still here," he said. The enemy withdrew its pressure. "We seek coexistence," it conveyed, "but your species resists prediction." "Good," Evan replied. "So do we." The presence faded, leaving behind silence and stars. No agreement was signed, no promises made, but the attacks never resumed. In the cycles that followed, the galaxy adjusted. Alliance doctrine changed. Emotion was no longer classified as weakness. Decentralized action became standard. Humans were requested as advisors, mediators, and observers across countless systems, not because they were superior, because they were honest. Lyran traveled often now, speaking to species that once dismissed humanity as reckless. She told them the same thing every time. "Humans do not bring answers," she said. "They bring courage to act without them." Evan returned to Earth briefly. He did not stay long. When asked what had changed the galaxy, he gave the same answer. "We stopped pretending we were perfect." Years later, standing once more beside a wide station window, Lyran watched young delegates move through the hall. Humans walked among them, laughing softly, arguing openly, unafraid to be seen. She remembered her first words to Evan. "I am not like your women." She understood now what she had truly meant. She had been saying, "Do not expect me to be understood." Humans never demanded that. They had simply looked and seen. Evan joined her, hands relaxed at his sides. "The galaxy feels different," she said. "It is," he replied. She glanced at him. "Do humans know what they've done?" He thought for a moment. "No," he said, "and that's probably why it worked." She allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Once she had believed logic ruled the stars. Now she knew better, it was choice. And humanity had chosen to act. The galaxy would never be the same again.